Hello Primes, and welcome back to the channel. So, the Transformers movies are not that bad. Now, before you get your pitchfork and torches out, just hear me out, okay? In order to make a good movie, you have to realize something. You have to realize who it's meant for. The Transformers movies are not meant for the critics. They're meant for the fans. They're meant for regular moviegoers. Sure, I have my problems with the movies. I mean, but who doesn't have a problem with any movie? Every movie in existence has its problems, even some of the best ones. So, Transformers falls into that category. It's all five of them are good. The first one especially, in fact, I think it might be even better than Bumblebee. I'll explain that in a later video. Now, before I continue, somebody asked me if I would ever run out of content. Unfortunately, YouTube deleted their comment for whatever reason. As I said in one of my previous videos, I have no control over that. But anyway, will I run out of content? I have enough content for a third of a year. I think I'm good. But anyway, the first movie was the best of the five. Revenge of the Fallen kinda slipped, but all in all, it was pretty good. Dark of the Moon was really, that was a really good one. Age of Extinction was super fun. And The Last Night, oh boy. Everybody says The Last Night is the worst movie to exist, it's the worst Transformers movie, it's an abomination to humankind. No, it's really not. The Last Night is a really good Transformers movie and a good movie in general. Now, before you punch me in the face or you punch your computer screen in pure rage, just, hear me out. If you don't like these movies, that's fair, okay? You don't like the Transformers in general. You don't have to, say it one way and mean it another, okay? Everybody hates on these movies for no reason. In fact, they've become part of something known as diss on pop culture. In other words, you hate it and you become popular. I don't hate these movies. I love these movies. I think they're good movies. Okay? And this is my opinion, and if you disagree with it, fine. I don't expect you to agree with it, and I'm not trying to change your opinion. But this is the explanation. Because I feel that these movies are extremely underrated. They are treated incorrectly. I grew up with these movies. I've loved them since I was a child. And looking back on them, they're nostalgic, they're fun, they're funny, the action is awesome, and there's story, people. So for those of you who want to say that the Bay movies don't have story, they definitely have more story than Bumblebee. I'll give you that, okay? Because Bumblebee is a ripoff. But literally, the Transformers movies, they have a story. You don't believe me? The first one, you have Autobots coming to Earth to find the Allspark, but they find out that Decepticons are there too. So, the only way to supposedly end the war is to destroy the Allspark. Instead of killing Prime and destroying the Allspark, Sam chooses to kill Megatron and destroy the Allspark. Boom, done, awesome movie. Revenge of the Fallen, if you ask somebody, what's the plot for Revenge of the Fallen, they'll sit there for hours going, It's simple. The main plot is they're trying to revive Optimus. That's the main point of the plot. They have the main villain, yes, the Fallen. That's who the movie's named after. But the basic plot is they need to revive Optimus to stop the Fallen. And everything that happens before it is called antecedent actions. Things that happen before the main part of the story kicks in. So the characters have motivation, they have a drive, they have a goal, which is extremely important in a movie. And people are like, it has no story, no characters, no blah 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 blah. You have characters who are trying their damnedest best to revive their leader to stop the Fallen from destroying the sun. There's no plot, huh? There's no plot. Tell me that there's no plot, I dare you. The plot is simple, it's straightforward, it's understandable. And the forest fight scene? Best fight scene in all of the movies. Hands down. Now, Dark of the Moon takes on a grittier, darker tone, but all in all, it's still quite legible. So you have the Autobots, who are betrayed by their great former leader, and so they're sent into exile, they come back, they find that the Decepticons have taken over Chicago. What do? They try and fight back, and they try and win back the city and the planet, and boom. Kind of a simpler, more straightforward plot, but all in all, that's sometimes something we need. Sometimes we need a simpler plot to kind of back down from the confusing plots, if that makes sense. Michael Bay said he would tone down the action for Dark of the Moon. He didn't really do that, but, I mean, Age of Extinction. Everybody likes to harp on this movie for being the longest movie. And they say it goes on forever, it's so long. Dude, it's only a few minutes longer than the other movies. And, like, is there, like, an exact line that you have to cross before you become a movie that is way too long? I love this movie because it's kind of an underdog story where you have the Autobots quite literally being pinned down by the Decepticons, and the only way they were able to succeed was the Dinobots. Meanwhile, Prime has a price on his head, and so he's trying to avoid lockdown. But in the process, lockdown finds him multiple times, and so he's just like, screw it, I'm going to kill this guy. Now, The Last Night. Similar to Revenge of the Fallen, if you were to ask anybody the plot for The Last Night, they'd sit there and they wouldn't be able to tell you anything. The plot for The Last Night is simple. You have an ancient goddess type thing who wants to fuse Earth and Cybertron together to rebuild, reanimate Unicron. Seems like a basic threat, while the Autobots are trying to stop that threat. There's the plot. Your motivation is right there, staring you blank in the face. And your characters are trying to do something that they never thought they would do. Hound, Drift, and Crosshairs, they used to be hoodlums, I guess you could say. They used to be childish and reckless, but then all of a sudden, they're pulled into this situation where the world's gonna end, both worlds, so we have to stop one world from destroying the other. And they did. So, character development, we don't get to see it, unfortunately, but there is character development there. So, there's no plot? You're exaggerating. There's a simple plot. And sometimes a simple plot is good. These movies were meant to be simple. Because you look at G1, tell me that the plot for every episode was convoluted. And this is another point. If somebody were to make a movie, or a TV show, or a game, or something Transformers related, and they didn't look G1, people would piss on it. I like G1, okay? I think without it, Transformers wouldn't exist. But the thing is, The only thing I want carried over from G1 into the new universe is the voice actors. Some of them have passed on, unfortunately, but a lot of them are really good. Peter Cullen, Frank Welker, Dan Gilvezan, they're all very talented actors who deserve another shot at the characters. Unfortunately, everybody has to harp on these movies because the characters don't look like what they used to. That's the bloody point. They're supposed to be a new take on the characters. They're supposed to have a new imagination. They're supposed to invoke what somebody else sees them to be. I don't want to see any more G1 style Transformers characters. Because while the designs look cool, they do look cool, not everything Transformers related has to be G1. Because if you do that, people are going to get pissed off and they're going to say it's too much. How do I know? Because I know what the future of the Transformers movies are going to be. Pay attention, because this is important. You have two possible routes that the Transformers movies can take. And neither one of them is what you would expect. One, all the movies flop. Okay? Bumblebee did great. Fine. Okay. I understand that. It has more heart than the previous movies. That's probably all I can give it. But then you have the future movies, which could be, an Optimus film, a Cybertron film, a whatever film. And they flop. Bumblebee did good, the rest won't. Okay? That's one option that could happen. Two, the movies do good, but nobody cares about them. You get like 1, 2, maybe 3 movies, and nobody talks about them anymore. The Transformers YouTubers out there, they're gonna start talking about other stuff. The movies, they're just gonna be like, they're gonna end up falling into the horrible movie pit. They're gonna end up flopping. So either way, the movies end up flopping. That's the way I see it. Why? Because they're gonna go with a more G1 design route. Fine. That's gonna jeopardize the franchise. Because if every Transformers related anything is G1 style, you're jeopardizing the fandom. You're giving them the same thing over and over and over again. It seems to be what the fans want, but when they get it, they're going to be complaining that it's too much. Do I have a problem with the Transformers fandom? Sure, I have a problem with the GTA fandom, the Red Dead fandom, everything fandom, because fans, they're crazy. They expect something in a certain way, but when they get it, they say it's incorrect. That's exactly what's happening with the Transformers movies. Fans have been begging, they have been dying for a live-action Transformers movie, and when they got it in 2007, they were pissed because it wasn't what they wanted it to be. You got a Transformers movie in 2007 when CGI was shit. And you want to harp on these movies for not being good. You got what you wanted, and you're crying that it wasn't G1. That makes sense that you want a G1 style movie. If we had gotten that in 2007, fine. But now they should be going the more Bay route, where things are different, where things take on a new form, where things are somebody else's ideas. You go with the same formula, you might have the formula for never-ending success, but eventually that success will fade out and it'll become nothing. You change it up a bit, you make it interesting, and you keep people hooked. You hook in more people, and people get interested in the franchise, and they want to check out the other stuff. Some people, the Bay movies were their introduction to Transformers, and after they saw the first few movies, they were like, I want to check out G1. I wonder what it was like. I want to see how much they evolved, how much they changed. And those people understand evolution. Now, I'm not going to talk about evolution too much, but I mean evolution of characters. Because You can't have the same character over and over and over again. Because what's the point? That's where Beast Wars was a bit of a success. That's why people like it. I personally don't, because it's not Transformers. It's Beast Wars! Like, I see where the success came from. It's a new take. It's a new idea of the characters. New voice actors. New personalities. New design. Definitely new designs. Oh, but no, you make Ratchet green instead of white and red. Oh, you got an entire fandom trying to knock down your bloody door. You see where this is going? So, it's not really anybody's fault. It's 100% not Michael Bay's fault that The Last Night failed. It's Paramount's fault. Because they said, the last movie was too long. You gotta shorten it. Here's your time limit. 1 hour, 30 minutes. That's what they gave him. They gave him 1 hour and 30 minutes to work on The Last Night. Or, no. The time that the movie had to be was 1 hour and 30 minutes. That's how long the movie was supposed to be. Oh, and here's Paramount's little incentive. We're gonna give you a short movie, in essence. We're gonna give you 14 writers to work on it. Give them your ideas, they'll write it down, throw it in the trash, and come up with something else. They had 14 writers working on a 1.5 hour movie. Usually, 5 writers is too much for a movie. 14! For a 1.5 hour movie. Was it 1.5 hours or 2.5? I don't know. I haven't looked at it in a while. It was either 1.5 or 2.5. But anyway. You have a short-sized movie, and you have 14 writers working on it. You only get 14 writers when you're working on a bloody TV show. Because that goes on for days. A TV series could span days to watch. So 14 writers to work on a TV series makes sense. But they got the writer's room for The Last Night, which they started back in like 2015 or whatever. And then Paramount said, so you gotta cut the movie down to 1 or 2.5 hours. I think it was 1.5 hours, because 2.5 hours, you'd be able to fit The Last Night in there. And that's why The Last Night feels condensed. Not rushed. Condensed. It feels a little tight in places. It feels sometimes things happen a little too conveniently. But that's movies. Movies do it all the time. Revenge of the Fallen, granted it has a better excuse. In 2009, there was a writer's strike. Those are so fun. But anyway, because of that, nobody was there to write the movies. So, what'd they do? They did the most logical thing they could do. They wrote the film as they were filming it. I'm not joking. They literally wrote it. They wrote down a scene, handed it off to Bay, and said, film that now. And they did. And it didn't do well, apparently. I thought it was fine. Like, I'm able to understand these movies. The action scenes. Everybody says, I can't tell what's going on. There's too much going on. I can't see what's going on. Ah! Slow down your brain. Okay? The action is well choreographed, and it makes perfect sense. I can tell where every character is, and I can tell what every character is doing. And I'm not very bright. In fact, I'm kind of a moron. But the fact that I can tell what's going on in these movies You figure either people are focusing too hard and it's hurting their eyes, or they're not focusing hard enough and they're just like, oh, son, somebody help me. I do something called focusing the right amount. It's not really a real thing, but I watch the movies and I just see giant robots fighting, and that's all I go to these movies for. I don't give a shit about the plot. If it's a simple, straightforward plot that anybody can follow, I'm fine with it. If it's a convoluted, hot mess, I'm fine with it. The Last Night was not a convoluted plot mess. I listed it down in one bloody sentence. So, these movies are good. They're just treated like trash because one tiny thing goes wrong. Yes, I do have my issues with these movies. Devastator's balls? Come to think of it, why was that a joke? Anyway, the first shot in Dark of the Moon being... And let's not talk about the dogs in Revenge of the Fallen. Can we just not? Please? So yes, there is some dry humor in these movies. But it's so much better than Bumblebee. Because sometimes in Bumblebee you can't tell when a character's making a joke. Now, I like Bumblebee, but it's what people say The Last Night is, in my opinion. But I'll talk about that in a later video. I gotta get going, so, yeah. I think the Transformers movies are fine. If you don't, fine. But, you know, let me know your reasoning on what you think of the movies. Do you think they're good? Do you think they're bad? If so, why? You know, I like the movies because they're entertaining, they're fun, and I go there for the action, not the bloody plot. But yeah. Talk to you later, and as always, please stay safe.